Hey everyone, and welcome to lesson 13 in my series of piano tutorials for absolute beginners. This series is running throughout 2017 and maybe a little into 2018, we'll see, and it's aimed at those of you who want to learn piano from scratch in a fairly traditional way. Now, if you're new to this series, please do go and check out the earlier lessons. You'll find them all in a playlist that I've linked in the description field right underneath this video. Okay, in terms of where we are in this series, the learning curve, which has been pretty steep for the past few lessons, is now just beginning to flatten off a little. We're still going to be learning new concepts, new ideas, new scales, but at a slower rate, and the focus is going to be on reinforcing what we've learned so far. So in this tutorial, we're going to do three things. First, I'm going to play through the rhythms that you were working on for your homework from lesson 12, just so that you can check that you got them right. Second, we're going to learn a new piece that includes just a couple of new concepts, a new time signature and a new note length. And when I've done that, I'm going to talk a little bit about progress rates, because a lot of people have been asking me things like, how long should this be taking me? I know that some of you are whizzing through the lessons and asking for more, while others are taking just a little bit longer. Now, if you're in the latter category, by the way, you shouldn't be beating yourself up about it. It's entirely natural that some people take longer than others. It's not really a reflection of how smart or how talented you are. So as I say, once we've done the technical stuff, I'm going to talk just a little bit about the speeds at which you can expect to make progress and go through a few ideas that should help you make sure that you're doing all of this as efficiently as possible. Okay, let's get going. So first of all, I just want to play through those rhythm exercises that you've been working on from tutorial 12. Don't worry if you don't have the tutorial 12 worksheet in front of you, because what I'm going to do as I play each little snippet is put it in the top corner of the screen, okay, so you can read the score and watch and listen at the same time. Also, what I'll do is count the beat as I go and count a bar in each time so that we can get a sense of the underlying pulse, okay? Here we go, here's number 1. We're in 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now number 2, and here we're in 3/4 time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Number 3 is also in 3/4 time, excuse me, but it's a little bit tricky because we've got this combination of a dotted crotchet, a dotted quarter note, followed by a quaver, an 8th note. Let's just hear how that sounds. Again, I'll count him for a bar. Excuse me. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let me just do that again so you can hear the effect of the dotted quarter note, the dotted crotchet, followed by the quaver. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So just to remind you, what's going on there is obviously the dot is lengthening that crotchet, that quarter note, by half. So rather than just occupying the first beat, that dotted crotchet occupies the first beat and a half, and the quaver that follows it occupies the second half of beat 2. Okay? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah? Okay, very distinctive kind of syncopated sound is that dotted crotchet followed by the quaver. Number 4, we've got more dotted crotchets and quavers, but this time we're in 4/4 time. Let me count you in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and did you hear that very final G just by itself was on the second half of the final beat of the second bar? Yeah, let me just play it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5, we're back in 3/4 time, but now we're in the left hand. Don't worry too much about the fingers that you're using here. I'm going to start on my 4th, but if you're jabbing around for your fingers, don't worry about it too much. Okay, let's count in. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Number 6, we're back in the right hand, back in 4/4 time. An interesting little challenge here because we've got a dotted crotchet rest to start with. So we have to count a beat and a half of silence and then come in with that G in the second half of the second beat. Let's give that a go. I'll count in a bar as usual. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, do you hear how once I started playing, I counted a beat, got halfway through the second beat and came down on the G. It takes a little bit of practice to reliably get in halfway through a beat. It doesn't have to be absolutely mathematically precise, but as close as you can. You'll find it comes after a little while. Let me just play through that one again. Again, bar in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, number 7, and again we've got a fairly lengthy rest in the first bar there. Just a point of interest, I added a note about this actually, but that is a crotchet rest followed by a quaver rest. Okay, the reason we just haven't put a dotted crotchet rest, which will be exactly the same length, is because it goes over the middle of the bar, and it's generally considered good practice to kind of help people read music clearly, to kind of have a split over the middle of the bar. Yeah, so you could put a dotted crotchet rest in there, and everyone would understand what you meant, but much clearer over the middle of the bar to have the dotted crotchet followed by the quaver. The effect, the sound is exactly the same. Let's count in 4 beats to the bar and play it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, number 8, here we've got those dotted crotchet quaver pairs again, but in the first bar they're reversed, so we've got the short note followed by the long note rather than long followed by short. Let's count in and play it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so in that first bar we've got a quaver on the first half of beat 1, and then that dotted crotchet comes in and lasts from halfway through beat 1 all the way to the end of beat 2. Then the same thing happens on 3 and 4. Okay, number 9. Yeah, we're in 3/4 time, and this is quite an interesting one because we've only got 2 notes, but in each case they're coming off halfway through the bar. Just look at the notation there. I could have actually scored that as dotted crotchets rather than a quaver crotchet. Doesn't really make a lot of difference. Okay, I just did it that way. Here we go again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I was doing my best to come off halfway through the second beat there. Yeah, quite a tricky thing to do. And again, don't worry about being absolutely precise. Just aim to be as precise as you can be. Okay, number 10. Here we go. We've got a dotted crotchet rest in there. Let's count in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, a little bit of syncopation going on there in that second bar. We've got those quaver rests in funny places. Again, if you found that one difficult, and these are beginning to get quite difficult now, print it out, draw in the bar lines, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 11, back in the bass again. We're in 3/4 here. This one is really quite tricky. Let's have a go at it. We'll take it fairly steadily. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Again, don't worry if you really struggled with that one. We're kind of at the end now where I'm really kind of trying to test you and trying to stretch you. If it took you a while to work that one out, or if you got it wrong, don't worry too much about it. You've done the good work just by trying to figure it out. And finally, number 12. We're in 4/4 time. We're in the left-hand again. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. A little bit of a stretch of that one. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there we go. Have a play through those again and check that you're getting them right against what I'm playing. And as I say, some of them are tricky, so don't worry if you weren't 100% perfect on them all. Just working through them will have helped you to improve. So now we've dealt with those, let's take a look at this week's piece. As I said at the start of the tutorial, it includes a couple of things that we haven't seen before. And the first is this new time signature, 2/4, yeah? Now we know that 4/4 time features 4 beats per bar, and each beat is the length of a crotchet or quarter note, and 3/4 is 3 crotchet beats per bar, and 2/4, you won't be surprised to learn, is 2 crotchet beats per bar. Okay, it's actually very similar, as you might imagine, to 4/4 time, but there are some slight differences. They're actually quite subtle, but you'll probably remember that the first beat of every bar, whatever time signature you're playing in, is stressed. There's a little bit of extra push on it. Okay. Now in 4/4, there's also a little bit of extra push on beat 3, but not as much. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4/4 time. The basic difference in 2/4 is that we have a strongly stressed beat every other beat rather than every fourth beat as we have in 4/4. The practical effect of that is that music in 2/4 tends to be a bit more kind of edgy and energized compared to the more kind of 4/square stable feel of 4/4. Often, not always, but often 2/4 is faster than 4/4. Now when you're practicing this piece, you don't really need to do anything different as such. Just count 1, 2, 1, 2, and that should be enough to give you a 2/4 feel. As I said, it's quite a subtle thing. Now the other thing we have here, as you can see, are these notes here, okay, the ones with a double beam. These are semiquavers, also known as 16th notes, and a semiquaver is half the length of a quaver, an 8th note. That means in 2/4 time, or 3/4, or 4/4, we can have 4 of them, or we do have 4 of them in one beat, as is the case here, yeah? Or, and this is quite another quite common thing, we can have half of one beat taken up with a quaver, a regular 8th note, and the other half of the beat taken up with 2 semiquavers. You'll hear how it sounds in a minute when I play through the piece. None of it is madly complicated, but it can get a bit confusing at first when you're trying to work out the different note lengths. Okay, if you're struggling, I'd suggest 2 things. First, print off the score in the accompanying worksheet. As usual, look for the link underneath the video. You'll find a PDF linked down there. And then, as I showed you how to do in tutorial 12, draw in the beats using vertical lines. Okay. The other thing you can do is just work out the rhythm before worrying about playing the notes, just by counting time and clapping against the beat like this. Yeah, I'll just give us a bar in and do the first 4 bars. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. As I say, doing that helps you work out the rhythm before you have to worry about pressing the right notes and all of that sort of stuff. By the way, we're only seeing semiquavers here in their beamed form because we always have at least 2 next to each other in the same beat. If you ever come across a semiquaver by itself, it looks like this. That is like a quaver but with 2 tails instead of 1. And a semiquaver rest is just like a quaver rest, but it has 2 arms rather than 1. Anyway, enough gabble about notes and rests, let me play through the piece. To make things just a bit easier this time, because you've got to get to grips with those semiquavers, I'll do it once with the score on screen and once so you can see my hands. Here we go. Okay, let me just play that through again, this time so that you can see what I'm doing with my hands. Here we go. Okay, as usual, pay attention if you can to the louds and the softs. Just watch out for some of the tricky little bits of fingering I've put in there. Nothing super difficult, but keep your wits about you. So, for example, bars 9, 10, 11 in the left hand, we've got, and then a bit of a squash up to get your finger on the second there, from 5 on the D to second on the F. Yeah, and one or two other little tricky little bits and pieces you need to keep your eye on. Also, if that run in bar 10 down looks a bit intimidating, just remember all it is a C major scale. And I've made the fingering exactly the same as it would be for a descending C major scale. Okay, let me just play those 3 bars again from bar 9. Yeah, so nothing too intimidating there. It's all a question of just trying to get that timing right, if you can, especially on the semiquavers. Okay, so I said at the start of the tutorial that I wanted to talk a little bit about rates of progress, because we're pretty well into the tutorial series now and I'm getting quite a bit of feedback. So far, fingers crossed, most of it is pretty good. But the question that keeps coming up is, how long should this be taking me? Sometimes people are saying, whoa, slow down, this is going too fast for me, and other people are saying the opposite. For most people, as far as I can work out, the pace seems to be kind of okay, but I thought it was worth taking a bit of time just to address the question. Basically, if you take away all of the variables like age and practice time and natural ability, if such a thing even exists, and all the rest, there's always going to be a range of speeds at which different people will progress. And you'll even find that different people will progress at different rates at different stages of the learning process. Okay? Now, bearing all of that in mind, there are 2 big factors. First of all, there's how often and how effectively you practice. And with practice, as I've said before, regularity is the key. 20 or 30 minutes a day is fine, but the important bit is every day, or at least 6 days a week. Yeah, half an hour a day, 7 days a week is way better than one massive 3.5 session once a week. Okay, your brain adapts much more easily if it's getting regular daily stimulation. It's also a question of doing good practice. I might talk about this in a bit more detail soon, but doing good practice basically means focusing on stuff that you find hard rather than using up your practice time just cruising through stuff that you find pretty easy. Okay, you should always be playing your scales, always warming up on your scales, even when they're fairly easy for you. But when it comes to working on your pieces, especially, focus on the hard stuff. Yeah, a practice session should make you sweat. You can progress faster by doing more practice, but keep it regular and don't keep it too long. 40 minutes a day, absolutely fantastic, but you'll probably find that's best split into 2 chunks, half an hour and 10 minutes, or 2 lots of 20 minutes, or whatever. If you're doing that amount of practice at an early stage, you also need to be careful not to hurt yourself. Yeah, always take care to warm up and never practice challenging stuff with cold hands. Then the second big factor is age. Now, really important thing to understand, age doesn't stop you learning anything. aged 80, you can, in principle, learn anything that an 8-year-old can. And, in fact, you'll have certain advantages over the 8-year-old because you've got things like maturity and perspective and a lifetime's experience of kind of applying yourself to things. But the big advantage the 8-year-old has is speed. Young brains are far more plastic, to use a technical term, than older ones. When you learn something, especially something complex, actual physical changes happen in your brain. And they happen quicker in the flexible, plastic brains of kids than they do in adults. Yeah, and as you age, it takes longer and longer and longer to learn things. So you can still learn stuff. Aged 80, you can learn everything an 8-year-old can. It just takes longer. Now, it all comes down to what your aims are. If you want to be a really great kind of concert level pianist, then you probably do need to start learning as a kid because there's so much work to do and you need the time. Yeah. But you can still become a very competent pianist if you only start in adulthood. Yeah, just be prepared for it to take longer. So let me finally rush in where angels fear to tread and try and turn that into some numbers. If you're working at 20 to 30 minutes per day, then I'd expect a quick learning kid to get the hang of each of the tutorials that I'm producing in around a week. Okay, now that's not to say that I think kids should be using these tutorials, by the way, because I have pretty strong feelings about kids doing best with actual human teachers, but that's a different matter. If you're an adult, and especially if you're an adult into or past middle-aged, you're probably looking at maybe twice that time, okay, maybe a little bit more. You might be faster, you might be slower, but I think that's about the measure of it, yeah? So there are going to be 20 or 22 lessons in the series, and let's say, if you're my age, nearly 43, yeah, heaven help me, where did the time go? I'd expect those 20 or 22 lessons to take you around a year, yeah, a year to 14 months, if you're doing a short period of practice pretty much every day. And, that's to get you to the standard that I'm aiming for at the end of the series. And that's actually going to be a pretty reasonable standard, okay? Certainly a level at which you'll be well equipped to move on to more complex playing and improvisation and things like that, where you'll have a good familiarity with the piano keyboard and be able to read right and left hand music reasonably competently, even if you aren't really quick at sight reading it, yeah? Playing the piano is a difficult skill, yeah, but you can make progress whatever age you are at. It's just a question of getting your head down for the long haul rather than having like a burst of enthusiasm and then forgetting about it for a month, then another burst of enthusiasm. Yeah, it's all about grinding away at it over a long period. Finally, I always say to people, see the journey as an end in itself. Yeah, yes, you have a destination in mind and you want to get there efficiently, but that's not to say that you can't find the learning process rewarding and absorbing and fun in itself. So there we go. Let me just remind you of what you need to practice ahead of the next tutorial. Obviously, work on the piece from this tutorial and any others you happen to be working on from previous tutorials. Don't be too obsessive if there are still some pieces from a few tutorials back that you're working on. We don't need complete perfection on every single piece, but it's good to have at least 3 or 4 of the most recent pieces that you're kind of polishing all the time, yeah? Then scales wise, we've got C, G, D, A and F majors and A and D minors, and the minors in both natural and harmonic minor forms. And that's it for another tutorial, yeah? Happy practicing. The next one will be out in a couple of weeks. Happy practicing, or maybe actually a bit sooner. I might aim for about 10 days just to get another one out this month. Anyway, but give me a shout in the comments if there's anything that doesn't make sense, yeah? Follow me on Facebook and Twitter, links underneath. Maybe check out my Patreon crowdfunding campaign at www.patreon.com/Bill Hilton. All support is very much gratefully received. I'll see you in tutorial 14.